13-year-old daughter coming home from school with her eyes puffy and her face drenched in tears. You rush to her and hug her harder than ever before, and you beg her to tell you what's wrong. She looks at you with the saddest eyes, and in between sniffles and sobs, she reluctantly tells you that someone at her school has been bothering her every day for the past month. She proceeds to tell you that this little girl has even started to hit her. I know that everybody here has had some interaction with bullying. Whether you've been bullied yourself before, you know someone who has been bullied, or maybe you've even been a bully yourself. My best friend was a victim of bullying when we were back in high school, and it affected her tremendously, almost to the point of no return. She didn't tell her parents what was going on. Instead, she took a whole bottle of her mother's Xanax. If her mom would not have come home when she did and get her the emergency care that she needed, my friend would not be alive today. Bullying can affect kids in several different ways. It can lead to the development of low self-esteem, depression, and even suicide attempts. To begin, I'll discuss how bullying can be a factor of low self-esteem. Self-esteem, confidence, and peers are very important in kids' life. Depending on the home life of kids, they may start off with little to no self-esteem. If this is the case, they can become more susceptible to becoming a victim of bullying. Once a fellow peer begins to bully another kid, this can have serious effects on their child's self-esteem. Peers are held to a high regard, and negative things that they say can have a tumultuous effect on victims of bullying. Within the article, Bullies Beat Down Self-Esteem on HealthyChildren.org website, it is stated that a teen whose self-esteem is shot may start to believe what the bully is saying is true. Also, according to the article on everydaylife.com, How Do Bullies Lower Kids' Self-Esteem, kids begin to feel ashamed, as well as afraid of life. They also tend to withdraw socially and even become anxious in social situations. Most of the time, kids who suffer from low self-esteem and bullying tend to shy away from people and live in their own little bubble, so to speak. This can be a very difficult time for these victims. Now that we have touched upon low self-esteem as an element of bullying, let's talk about how depression can also be brought about due to being bullied. What is depression? Depression is not fully understood, but it is known to be a mood where one feels sad all the time, and sometimes they can even have feelings of self-worthlessness. Most kids who are bullied almost always go through some form of depression. Think about it. If you had to get up and go to school 5 days a week, every week, and you knew that the person that bullied you would be there waiting for you. Torturing you on a daily basis is what the bully lives for. It has to be humiliating, and it definitely will take a toll on a kid's body as well as their health. If depression is not caught and addressed in a timely manner, it can lead to far more serious problems that might not end so well. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's very important to know what the signs of depression are so that intervention can come into play as soon as possible. Parents, teachers, family, and friends should definitely pay attention to the following signs closely. According to the article, Bullying and Depression, located on the website bullyingstatistics.org, the signs include long-lasting sadness, withdrawal from others, changes in sleep patterns, and or eating habits, being restless, anxious, feeling worthless or guilty, aches and pains with no apparent physical cause, and thinking or talking about suicide. If any signs of depression are noticed, action needs to be taken soon. The child should either go to a doctor or psychologist so that the problem is addressed in a timely fashion. Leaving depression untreated in children can be a recipe for disaster. How? Because children are unable to deal appropriately with depression on their own, and sometimes more often than none, they may make a more permanent decision, which brings me to my next point. Sometimes kids cannot deal with their lack of confidence or the feelings of sadness all of the time. So in order to relieve themselves of all the negative in their life, they may attempt to commit suicide. It's astonishing when looking at the statistics regarding bullying and suicide, which brings me to my poster. Should be a no bullying zone. This should be something that's in all schools and everything, because over 14% of high school students have considered suicide, which means that they just thought about it. Okay, they talked about it, possibly with their peers. 7% have attempted it. So a lot of kids sometimes attempt to slit their wrist or take a whole bottle of pills, which is what girls usually do. 4,400 bully-related deaths happen per year among kids. 77% of students are bullied mentally, verbally, and physically. 10 to 14-year-old girls are among the highest risk for suicide attempts, according to a web article, Bullying and Suicide. Can you imagine why girls are more at risk to attempt suicide? Think about it. Girls are more so to talk about and make fun of other girls because of jealousy or whatever other issues they may have. There are signs of suicide that parents, teachers, family, and friends need to be aware of. According to the web article, Bullying and Suicide, some of the warning signs that they point out are showing signs of depression, withdrawing from others, talking about death or dying, engaging in reckless behavior, substance abuse, saying that they can't handle things anymore, or making comments like things would be better without them. If suicide is expected, interventions as soon as possible are not only recommended, but definitely needed. If kids are making any mention whatsoever of suicide, take them seriously, no matter what. Get emergency help as fast as you can. Parents need to make sure that they stay heavily involved in their kids' lives and keep the lines of communication open. The most important thing that a parent can do for their child is let them know you'll always be there for them. A kid knowing and believing this could be the difference between life and death. In conclusion, I have discussed the potential effects bullying can have on kids. They can have a significant drop in their self-esteem. They can fall into a deep depression, or worst case scenario, they could possibly attempt or maybe even commit suicide. Bullying is a serious topic that we must have more conversations about. If our kids come home crying because they are being bullied, we must take action immediately. When others try to tear our children down, parents, we must build them back up. After all, the children are our future. We cannot let them become extinct. Thank you.